Hi, and welcome to the Benefits Pulse, Business Solvers podcast, where you can keep a beat on trends, insights, and more in the health, benefits, and HR tech industry. I'm Bridget Mortland, Head of Marketing and Product Solutions here at Business Solver, and today we're sharing a webinar featuring our great client, Sam Elliot from BASF, and how they've engaged their dispersed population and their benefits using personalization, virtual benefit fairs, and targeted communications. Thanks, of course, to my Business Solver colleagues for hosting this incredible conversation. If you're ready to hear more from Sam, let's go ahead and dive in.
And today we'll be talking about benefits communications. And I know that you all are kind of still, maybe resetting from that fog of annual enrollment. Maybe the other three-letter word is on your plate right now, which is ACA. But hopefully today you can gain some insights about how you can better engage your employees around your benefits communication strategy. There's a lot of tools and resources here available at Business Solver, integrated in our technology, as well as some other things we can offer. And that's what we're looking to discuss today. Before I intro our speakers, I'm going to actually take a moment to answer the question of the week there as well, Shelley. So my wife and I were really trying to start from square one with Yellowstone. So we've actually started 1883, the prequel series. So we're about halfway through, and it is very good show. So with that, let's start with introducing some of my talented coworkers here at Business Solver, and I will have Madison introduce herself first.
Yeah, thanks, Nelson. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited about the next hour-ish that we have with you all. Madison Maines, I'm the director of our consumer experience team at Business Solver, and I have been lucky enough to be here for almost 11 years. Spent a lot of time on the marketing side of our organization and now lead our consumer experience team more specifically on the custom communication side. So I have the pleasure of working with clients like Sam and super excited to have her alongside today. And I'll just follow along with the theme that Nelson has now set. So no pressure, Dane and Sam, this is your warning. I just finished, I kind of went back and watched the Terminal List on Prime. That was really good. So recommend that if you're looking for something that's binge worthy, in my opinion. Dane, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Maddie. This is a lot of pressure because I've been jumping around in all of my streaming services, but I'm Dane Corwin, the Senior Design Strategist, and I've been at Business Solver almost 12 years now. I think that's 112 dog years or Business Solver years. And I think that The Brother's Son is the last thing that we've watched, and it was very interesting. So I highly recommend it. But Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I am Sam Elliot, the Wellbeing and Digital Health Senior Specialist at BASF. BASF is a chemical company, and I've been with them for about 7 years now, and I have about 10, 11, 12 some odd years of experience in HR. So I've been in the HR space for a long time and a couple years here in the benefits space. Oh, and right, my favorite show, Jack Reacher. We are all in on Jack Reacher right now.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself there. And Sam, let's start with you and let's help us, our audience, as well as Business Solver folks here on the line. Tell us a little bit more about the population at BASF, and some of the challenges that you were facing.
Yeah, so our population in the US, so I'll start with, we are a global company and we are headquartered in Germany, but for the US and where I focus my time in US benefits, we have about 12,000 active employees, and that's over 100 locations in the US, so very big sites, very small sites, and we have employees that are doing everything. We have people who are helping to make seeds in agriculture. We have people who are working on car paint. We have all scientists in laboratories, people working in the office. So just a wide range to our workforce of manufacturing, non-manufacturing, sales, and other divisions. We also have a union population that makes up a little over 1,000 employees. So as much as our products are everywhere, so are our people. And I would say we actually have a little bit of an older workforce. Our median age range is 47. So while we do have an older workforce, we do have all generations in our workforce as well. So making sure that we're thinking about all these different generations, under one roof. We do tend to have a heavier male population, about 70%. And about 92% of our employees are enrolled in a BASF medical plan. So taking advantage of the benefits that we have out there for them.
That's a great overview. And Dane, when you hear about a workforce like that, kind of all across the board, all different kinds of job types, I imagine that gets you pretty excited and kind of your creative wheels turning on how to engage that population. So what were some of the immediate thoughts that you had when you first engaged with Sam and her workforce?
Yeah, so I was actually with BASF onboarding them, and it was a huge learning experience. There are a lot of complexities, as Sam was mentioning, not only with this kind of like non-union group, but all the unions, and I think maybe 5.3 million different kinds of retiree populations. And there's also Puerto Rico. So we've got all these different complexities, even languages, all these different things that we need to communicate. So we have to be really thoughtful. And before BASF came to us, a lot of the materials that they were doing were print mail, right? So how can we then save some money, and be a little more thoughtful in our approach to communications? So we do a lot of kind of behind the scenes strategy and working sessions and really trying to identify the different populations and help them get really connected to those benefits. Because let's face it, a lot of the key decision makers may not be that 70% male population, right? We have to be able to provide tools that, the key decision makers at home may need to review and, access if they need care, or, those kind of programs that BASF, it's such a rich program that they provide, and bringing those benefits forward when people need them is really key. So, between the complexities and all the different things that we can do in our system, as well as outside of our system, to create those digital pieces to really get people engaged, super exciting. And my inner nerd just like totally comes out. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that inner nerd especially. So I think that, when we think about engaging employees, that in of itself is a very lofty goal. But when we throw in benefits on top of that, a complex topic, I mean, that makes that goal even, more challenging. So Sam, talk with us, I'm sorry, about what has worked thus far. What wins have you seen?
Yeah, so as Dane was talking, it brought me back to those print materials. We used to make these huge booklets that we would send out. And as she mentioned, that's so costly. And also, things are changing all the time. We had to get ready for print. So if something changed, it's a little too late now. It's already written in stone and sent to somebody's house. So one of the solutions that we do with Business Solver is our virtual benefits fair. And that has been great. It's been well received. And it's awesome because it's connected into the benefits experience that employees are already familiar with during their annual enrollment. So through the virtual benefits fair, each of our vendors are allowed to have a booth. We've gamified it, getting people interested with raffles and all sorts of different things. We can put videos in here, whatever information that we have to bring this to life a little bit. And I see you're seeing on the screen now, we did a really cool theme this past year with kind of traveling, around the world. But Business Solver always has really awesome themes. It's one of the most fun parts about making the virtual benefits fair. And you can see the raffle stamp that we did for different items. And that really entices people to come in. We had, I think, about maybe 2,100 people come in, unique users to this. So that was a really great success this past year with the virtual benefits fair. So, and this is something, sorry, Dane, go ahead.
I was going to say we switch it up each year, so it's engaging and it's fun, and it creates a little buzz around everything. So it's a lot of fun.
Yep, and then we keep that open too. So outside of the annual enrollment experience, if we have any new hires throughout the year, they're able to come into this experience as well to see all the different information that we're sharing with them. And kind of also, this theme of like really clean, easy to access information. A couple things we did this year, we cleaned up our entire site design and reference center. So our page is really clean, really easy to find information. With the reference center cleanup, we took out all those acronyms that nobody understands, right? And if we had to write some notes to lead people to the right places, we did. So we did an entire cleanup on that to make sure that it's really easy for people to access those types of information. And then the last thing I'll mention is, we did a lot of benefits literacy communications early in partnership with Business Solver. So before annual enrollment, when people are getting bombarded with all this information and they're very task focused on, I have to enroll my benefits right now and I have to learn all the things in these 2 weeks that this window is open, we tried to do some videos and some speaking points and checklists ahead of time. So we started with that in September, where we launched a benefits enrollment success checklist, and as part of that, we made some videos that we called Take 5 videos on key topics that people had a lot of questions about. So think about like maybe HSAs or medical plan terminology, how to use the reference center, enrolling in some supplemental insurance plans. So getting that information out there early so that when annual enrollment came, it didn't feel like so hard to digest all this big information. We also, through those communications, we're encouraging people to download the mobile app and opt into text messaging. So we have pretty good SMS rates, as well as people downloading the mobile app. And then on our homepage, we're able to feature all those videos in the right places so that information becomes evergreen. So between those new communications prior to AE, having a clean site for people to go to, and then our super cool benefits fair, I would say we've had a lot of wins and a lot of great things that we've been able to do for our employees.
Love to hear that. And I think you talked about a couple of some of my long favorite tools here at Business Solver. So with respects to the reference center, layout manager, both incredibly powerful tools. And kind of what I've taken away is that it's important to do that hygiene kind of, if you can, throughout the year or ahead of that big kind of rush of events that surround annual enrollment. And that's something for our audience, that's something that you can do year round with the assistance of your Business Solver team, or if you feel comfortable, confident enough, you can manage that yourself. Sam, I'm going to put you on the spot here, though. We've got a couple of questions coming in through the chat. So our audience wants to know, what percentage of workers do you have each day working from their desk? And then if you could maybe give a ballpark of that number. And then also, do you provide company emails to Business Solver on behalf of your population?
So in terms of office workers, I would say maybe 40%. The rest would be manufacturing. And then in terms of, do we provide email addresses? Yes, because we use the Action Manager to have Business Solver send emails to our population on behalf of BASF, which has kind of been really nice because people know the single email address, and we're able to push communication so they know it's coming from us and they know it's about their benefits information.
Wonderful. And I'll bring in Dane and Maddie here to ask, when someone's like Sam or a different customer comes to you all with a need like this, when you're going through that initial campaign and kind of talking through different strategies, how do you measure success? What does that success metric look like when you come back to the customer at the end of the campaign and say, how did we do?
I think the success metric looks different depending on what type of communication piece it is. We've recently started really putting more custom URLs into print materials and things that allow us to track the success of things we mail to homes. That's really hard to do. It's hard to do in a marketing space. It's hard to do for us. Once it gets into the hands of the consumer, we're not quite sure exactly if it's driving the outcomes that we want. And so we've started to infuse some of those pieces, but we have a lot of conversations up front with our client. How would they define success? What is the goal? If it's specific to their annual enrollment, are they trying to drive adoption of certain plans and programs? Are they trying to migrate more folks to their high deductible plan, or whatever that goal might be for their specific annual enrollment? Let's look at that data ahead of time, align with the client on what their organizational goal is, and then measure it after the fact. Everything that Sam talked about, especially within our technology, we want to provide the best optimized consumer experience, that clean experience that Sam talked about creating, because we know that when we do, that will drive self-service, and allowing folks to really find what they're looking for and achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve during the enrollment period. And so we have some measurables that we look at from that perspective. How many of those individuals were able to complete the enrollment on their own, or did they need to chat with Sophia? Did they need to call into our member services? And so we really work to define, as part of our project brief process, what goals are we trying to achieve, and making sure that they're measurable and not just fictitious, and stuff, and then being able to deliver on those after the fact. And Sam, something that I think is important for the audience to hear too is that means that not everything that we do and choose to do hits those marks, right? And I think we've seen that over the last couple of years with your union population specifically, and those virtual benefit fairs. I'd love for you to share with the audience, how we measured those, the time we gave. We gave a couple of years for those to kind of stick with those union folks, and just the shifts that we've made over time in that strategy.
Yeah, so great point. We did try to deliver the virtual benefits fairs to unions. This population had historically really been used to having HR presence on site, having somebody with them there through the whole process. And while that, we're not staffed for that and haven't been that way in a long time, they still really want that experience and are a little resistant to digital. So we tried the virtual benefits fair for them for 2 years. We did get some utilization, but not enough to really get the most value out of that. And it took a lot of our time to design 10 different virtual benefits fairs, depending on the unions, to not see the utilization. So that is something that we decided not to do this year. And there wasn't any noise because we still supported them with all the other materials. We just decided to put, our efforts elsewhere for that population instead of into the virtual benefits fair, because it just wasn't as well received. And then Maddie, also, as you were talking about, measuring success, you mentioned calls into member services. So because we did that kind of pre-AE campaign and had all these great materials out there and everything was cleaned up, last year we had a lot of themes come through to the service center, people calling about things that they really could have self-serviced on their own. This year, we didn't have any of those themes come through. So to me, that shows that those early communications worked and people were able to get the information they needed without calling in for those specific topics. So I would call that a win for us.
And I think it's important to not just focus on annual enrollment, but as we're talking about results year round, we've taken all of the benefit guides that BASF used to print, right, and made those digital. So we can track and see what kind of engagement we have for those materials, as well as, when we take that strategic hat and put that on, how else can we kind of nurture different times in someone's journey, right? So we've created a very thoughtful planning to retire guide that has timelines, and it's really thorough, and it's really appropriate for as people are sunsetting their employment, what are some other things they need to think about, right? So bringing all of that forward, I think, is a huge value add that BASF has thought about and had that approach, and I think it's super successful. So it's really cool to be able to measure all of this stuff and see what kind of engagement levels we're getting.
I love that. That has to be exciting to kind of see the fruits of your labor, so to speak, play out and see those results happen live. I want to ask you a question that I hear a lot from customers I engage with in my previous life here at Business Solver and onboarding. I hear oftentimes our population, and Sam, you kind of, hit on this earlier, isn't used to digital. That's not something native to them. That's going to be a big change for them. And I often got that feedback from customers as well. So I would love to hear your kind of perspective on you saw it with that population specifically as a journey, right? It's not something that first year we tried it, we gave up. How did you think about your population's kind of the psychological change or shift that you had to kind of introduce to them to be those digital adopters?
Yeah, and I think, we kind of eased into it, right? So we didn't, rip everything away from the employee print wise, and we still do some print mailers home, right, to get information in the household. But it is a change we've made over time. And I think it's important to realize that kind of behavior change just doesn't happen overnight. I think it helps that this is kind of the way the world is going to. And in human resources, we're not the only department that is really moving to more of a digital or virtual approach. Can you still hear me? Sorry, I see my screen went a little blank there.
We can still hear you, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So ignore the weird color. um, so, and I think it's about making it easy, right? So a lot of our population does not have a BASF device, whether that be a mobile phone or a computer. So we've made it so that people can easily access things on their personal device. So, right, the My Choice mobile app, you can have that on your personal device. You can download QR codes if you're looking at a poster, right? We have it so you can easily scan that on site. So just kind of really encouraging digital, but understanding that it is going to take time. But every year we're seeing our mobile adoption increase, people opting into text messaging increasing, and I think it's just because it's so easy to use and to keep track of things.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts on that change. And I think it's a good segue to ask you, Maddie. You're dealing with customers like Sam and organizations like Sam sits in often. What are some other themes potentially that you're hearing from customers when they're thinking about their benefits communication strategy?
Yeah, good question. I think every organization has unique challenges, while many of them are shared. Sam and BASF comes from that manufacturing space. So knowing that the work environment of those 40-ish% office workers is very different than the work environment for the rest of kind of those that are on the manufacturing floor. And that creates communication challenges because they aren't sitting in front of their computer screens. There's been a couple of good questions that have come through around how many of your individuals have work email addresses. That's a pretty consistent challenge for a lot of our clients. We want to communicate via email, but the majority of our individuals aren't given a work email address. And we solve for that with a lot of our technology, and allowing employees to provide us with a personal email address when they come into the platform. I was even talking with a client yesterday that was a concern of theirs, and just went into the system, pulled a personal preference report, and turns out that the entire population that they don't give a work email address to has a personal email and benefit solver. So, we're still able to now capture and leverage email. So that's a pretty consistent concern across clients. How are they going to drive that communication? Sam also mentioned the shift that we've made with BASF from paper to digital. That's a hard one. A lot of organizations are kind of being pressured into that too, a little bit, with just some sustainability beliefs within their organization. They're being pushed to go green. But how do we do that when our population is used to that mail communication? And it's about striking the right balance with that. How can we have less of a footprint from a print perspective? Maybe it's still sending a postcard, or like we do with BASF, a newsletter. Also segmenting populations. There's unique needs for different populations. We support active employees and retirees for BASF, Their retirees get a little bit of a larger, what I would consider a newsletter when it comes to annual enrollment time to talk about benefits. So segmenting populations, understanding those unique work environments, and then putting a communication strategy together that's going to meet all of those groups where they need to be met. And it's definitely not one size fits all, even within a single organization.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, not only, are we communicating to the BASF team, right? But we're creating tools that are accessible for their dependents, that maybe there's a wife or a husband at home that, really needs to see this information as well. So we've made that accessible. And also they can access it from any device. So they don't have to have a computer. They can do it from any device that they have. So that's, I think, super important here because, understanding what's new, what's changing, what do I need to know, we're getting that message out there for them.
And for
Uh,
HR too, Dane. I know we do that for a number of clients too, where they have local HR, folks that are on site at different plants and locations. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've solved that issue too, Dane?
Yeah, so we have a toolkit, as we call it, and all of the materials that we send out for annual enrollment are on this site. So we direct everyone to the same site. We have their, links to benefit guides. We have, the mailers that we're sending, all the emails, everything that's going out. So they have full visibility into what is being communicated to folks at their locations. So been a really nice tool for them to access. And they can use it year round.
Um, I love kind of giving I'll call it the field HR, or kind of, Sam, as maybe you mentioned earlier, the person at the plant, so to speak, representing HR, that enablement kit, so to speak, right? We want to arm you with everything that you could possibly need to have this successful rollout, because as our audience knows, as we know, that annual enrollment is the Super Bowl. It is that one time a year where you get to have this opportunity to engage the employees on this degree and educate them. And actually, let's go to that education topic a little bit, because our audience is quite interested, Sam, in those Take 5 videos. So it kind of segues nicely into another question we had. You've mentioned Reference Center, Layout Manager, Action Manager, a lot of tools in Business Solver. I'm sorry, on Benefit Solver. It's clear BASF is a great adopter. So talk to us about the new or interesting things you're doing with those tools. And if you could, for our audience sake, weave in that Take 5, some details around those videos as well.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start with the new adoption of things. So we started with activation paths. So that's a feature. I feel like it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of feature for communications. It makes communications so much easier. So we have a lot of points, like a lot of point solutions. So when we have our homepage, we're able to feature those benefits as part of activation paths. Each point solution has a button. There's some information. You can get the contact information quickly, the URLs to get involved, whatever we want to put. It's right there on the person's home screen. We're able to do call outs based on those point solutions. So March is colorectal cancer awareness month. We have a cancer support solution. Maybe we want to put a call out on the website. Hey, did you know you had this benefit? And then we're also able, through Action Manager, to send emails based on those point solutions. So we planned it for the whole year. So already, I feel like such a weight has been lifted because we planned the communications. We know what point solutions we want to highlight. Employees like getting the emails about their benefits through this way. And we tested it before doing it. And we had, I believe, a 40% open rate with the first emails we're sending out. And, in marketing terms, that's really good. So super happy with that, and just happy to have planned it. It's off my plate from an administrative standpoint, and then we can see where we're making impressions, where people are clicking into that and going through to the point solution. So a lot of good data that we can get from that. And then with the Take 5 videos, yeah, like I mentioned, we would get so many questions, like why should I even consider a health savings account? All the medical plans, like what's a copay? Do kids even know this who are coming into the workforce? I feel like I had no idea. There's copay, co-insurance, deductible. What are these things, and how does it all make sense? So I just made 5-minute videos, just in Microsoft Teams, just a webinar, two slides to go through that and just answer some of the main questions that our employees have. I've hosted that internally, and we've also hosted that through Business Solver. So like the how to use the reference center one I did, that's on the homepage. We also do an entire benefits overview, because some people still want to hear it kind of read to them. It's maybe a little bit easier when you have an expert in the space, but I'm not able to do 100 different in-person sessions a year. So I record a 1-hour session that kind of goes through all of our health and welfare benefits. That's also posted on our homepage, so employees can access that anytime when they just want to get a quick reference to something, or go through their entire benefits package to see what we have out there. Because I think, not only can it just be confusing with the terminology, but there's just so much. So trying to consolidate that and make it easy for the employees to interact with.
Yeah, I will definitely say when I was first entering the workforce picking out insurance, I saw copay, co-insurance, and I said, man, I really wish somebody would have introduced me to this co-fella. He's very important. What does all this mean? So I can totally relate to that. One more quick question on the Take 5 videos. Are you able to, and Dane, Madison, please chime in. Are we able to actually include those as embedded links in Action Manager or email communications and route the audience back to Benefit Solver to view those?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also include those in the virtual benefit fairs, and I believe the benefit guides as well. So there's multiple places that we can kind of place that strategically to make sure that people are connected to that and have a better understanding of it, because they don't really teach you that stuff in high school, which I feel like they should, along with taxes. But yeah, it's those kind of things that, when you need to know it, having it right there at your fingertips makes it so much easier. And Sam did a great job of creating those. And, it's just really nice for people to be able to access that. And I thought that was really thoughtful.
It's another great thing to measure too, Nelson, because videos work great for some populations and they're not perfect for others. And I'll kind of wrap our session today later talking a little bit about how we decide what fits and what doesn't, or what could be effective. So video is another one that you can really get a lot of great metrics around. How long are they watching into the video before they drop off? That can help inform what the right length of video is that your population is really sitting and digesting. So there's a lot of great data that comes behind. I know we host a lot of our videos through Vimeo, but wherever it's being hosted, there's usually, a level of data that can be really helpful to measure the effectiveness of those videos. Or it's sometimes just those ancillary data points, like Sam mentioned, around, hey, we got way less phone calls about certain topics that we really hit home in those Take 5 videos. So make sure we measure those videos and the effectiveness of them too, which is a great option to have.
Absolutely. And since we were fielding a question with respects to videos embedded in email, I want to take a quick kind of detour moment to maybe do a point of clarification here. Because if I look at the poll results, we have 33% of our audience saying that they use company email as a primary way or one of their avenues to communicate about benefits. Now, we've been talking a lot about Action Manager, and I think it's important maybe to dive in real quick on the distinction between those two and how Action Manager can, to the audience, feel like it's that company email. Dane or Madison, would you like to weigh in on that?
Sure. I mean, I think we do a couple of things. One, we can control the from address of those emails. So a lot of times we will make that something along the lines of BAS benefits or BASF. Such a mouthful, Sam. I don't know how you do it all the time. BASF benefits at, whatever the end is and stuff. So that's one way. That way it feels familiar. We also work with our clients to make sure that we kind of list all of the possible IP addresses that emails may be coming in from, so that it doesn't land in individual spam or junk folders. That's a really important aspect of that. And then with the custom communications team, there's a level of branding. So consistency in a header, consistency in a footer on every single email that is related to BASF benefits or your benefit program. That little bit of branding can create a lot of trust when an email comes in. So just those types of things that we all probably get security training around, those gotcha or things to look out for in emails to know if they're a phishing email. We avoid all of those things in our benefits related emails so that they're a trusted source.
That sounds great. Thank you for that. And Dane, let's kind of throw a question here to you. I imagine when you have a customer like Sam come to you and you get all of these kind of different populations to serve, you have an engaged customer who's kind of willing to partner with you. What does that exciting design phase look like? How do you start that journey?
Well, there's a few things that we do throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, our designers get free range to create super fun themes for virtual benefit fairs, e-guides, whatever those things are, and those supporting materials. So with BASF, we kind of do a custom version of that every year and just create something really fun. A couple years ago, we did a movie premiere, like a movie theme, and then another year was like a state fair theme. So it was really fun for us to do that. But usually when we're onboarding a client, maybe new to Business Solver, we'll talk through the strategy about their benefits brand. So a lot of companies, they want something specific that sets them apart from the regular corporate brand. So we can get a little creative there and have a little fun. It can still kind of look and feel a little more corporate, but like with BASF, we have the BASF benefits kind of theme, or the visuals that are all tied to each other, and have a little fun every year. But I love being able to create those kind of what we call mood boards and getting the reaction from clients, because it's just so much fun. And it's like one of my favorite things, I think. So Sam, we always have fun in about March when we're trying to determine what the theme is this year, right?
I love the distinction between the corporate brand as well as the benefits brand, and it kind of gives yourself that permission to, like you said, Dane, have that fun with it, right? Like I always say, no one stood up in kindergarten and said they want to be in benefits, so let's at least make it fun if we're going to be here and have to engage about it. So I love that note. So we're nearing the end of our session here, and Sam, I'd want to lead off with you. But if there's one piece of advice that you want our audience to take away from what we've discussed today in, engaging their employees further, what's that one thing?
Yeah, so I would just say really trying to meet people where they are to some extent, right? We talked about it earlier. The change to digital takes a lot of time. We still do send prompts in the mail to, encourage that behavior change over time. So just give yourself some grace, right? If that's the direction you want to go in. That's great. And you just work at it a little bit more year over year, trying to entice them to use the different digital tools, but also realizing that sometimes, yeah, maybe we do have to send something home to be in the household. So just meeting them where they are, because the most important thing is that they're engaging with their benefits.
And Dane, do you have anything to add there? The one thing?
I would say don't be afraid to try new things. If your population, you think they aren't really into mobile and all of that stuff, try it. Do a little bit of testing and then build your strategy from there. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do that. And in the marketing world, there's a lot of trial and error. And, until you can try it and prove that it didn't work, you don't know, right? So it's really cool to kind of see companies that are stepping out of their shell a little bit and trying new things, and it becomes super successful and they build upon that.
Awesome there. Thank you for both of you for sharing that one thing. I'm going to actually lead in Maddie a little bit before she gives her one thing. So We've had a lot of great questions from the audience asking for more information, Maddie, about not only virtual benefit fairs, but kind of what Business Solver can do for their group. In addition to your one thing, would you mind kind of sharing an overview of some things that Business Solver can offer to help in this vein?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with I'll meld it all together in harmony here at the end. But you heard BASF and Sam talk a lot about all of the solutions that we do for them. It's a wide scope of communications, if you will, that makes up their holistic strategy. And so that's really where the consumer experience team comes in. We love to just get on the phone with you all as our clients, understand where your communication challenges are today or what is working from a communication standpoint within your organization. And then that helps us identify the opportunities where we and the consumer experience custom communications team may be able to supplement a current strategy that you have. Oftentimes, there are many different pieces of your organization or partnerships that are providing some amount of communication out to your employees. And so sometimes it's just about where we can help supplement with the knowledge that we have. Things like our Benefit Solver portal, optimizing Sophia. Are we leveraging Action Manager in the best way that we can? But that discovery session really allows us to identify where we may be able to help support you all as our clients. And so from there, we would put together what we recommend as a communication, project. And it may just be one singular deliverable, like, hey, let's get into our technology and let's clean it up. As Sam mentioned, let's focus on the reference center a little bit. Or it might be as broad of a scope of communications like we provide for BASF. It's really sky's the limit. I mean, I saw somebody comment in the chat earlier that they use mirror clings in their bathrooms. We have a client that we actually create signage for their bathroom stalls, believe it or not. And so, we've even put QR codes and AE dates on coffee cups for break rooms for a retail client. So, it's really sky's the limit with what we can support. And that's why kind of my one thing, Nelson, is really analyzing that data that you have at your fingertips. It's one of the first questions that we ask clients, what's working and what's not. And if you haven't looked at any data behind your communication strategy, it's hard to say what's working and what's not working. So my biggest one thing is to get your hands on as much data as you can and really start to measure the effectiveness of your communication strategy.
I know we have some communications that drive outcomes here on the screen. Maddie, did you have anything that you wanted to potentially share or pivot to and show our audience today?
Outside of the examples that we showed for BASF, I don't have any hard examples, Nelson, to pull up and show today, but we do have a wide breadth of examples. So if you're interested in seeing something that is really specific, example postcards or newsletters or emails or additional virtual benefit fairs, Dane mentioned we have a lot of themes and approaches to these. Some clients want to push that envelope a little bit like Dane likes, and we're able to do something fun and with a fun theme. Other clients want to stick closer to their corporate branding. And so we have some great examples of that too, how we've brought that to life. So happy to reach out and schedule some time, share some more specific examples of things that you're looking for, whatever is going to help you move your communication strategy forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And audience, like Maddie said, I'll echo her sentiments. We welcome hearing from you. We welcome that engagement. If there's anything that we can do for you and your employees, we're always here to assist. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Sam for her time and for joining us today, and also for being such a great user and engager and believer in the Benefit Solver technology. We appreciate that. The last thing I'll say is thank you to our audience. I know that you are kind of deep into the ACA season, like I mentioned before. I appreciate your attendance. I appreciate the questions. It actually does. I'm doing a time check here. I apologize. It looks like we do have a couple of opportunities to address some further questions. So I'll hold off on the complete wrap up here. But Maddie and Dane, is there anything that you can tell us further actually about the virtual benefit fair timelines? So what's optimal? And Sam, of course, chime in with where we position that for BASF, but also maybe some ballpark costs as well around that virtual benefit fairs.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to a little bit of that. We really look to have kind of an outlook of work supporting fall annual enrollments for our clients around the end of April timeframe. It seems to then give us the amount of time that is required to really put the time, attention, and resource into each of our clients' projects in the way that we want to, and the way that you expect us to. So we're kind of coming up on that deadline already. It's almost like end of February. It's crazy. So encourage you to think about that communication strategy. Again, that ensures that we have the time to set aside the resource, assign resource to your project, and make sure that we're meeting your expectations there. So from a timing perspective in the year, that's kind of what we're looking at. We like to then start to spread that project out and start it earlier rather than later. BASF, of course, is another great example of that. Dane talked about starting to set that theme and the look and feel in March, decide on that, and then we template out all of their communications that are in their project so that we are 60, 70% of the way there before we might even know plan changes that are coming. And so being more planful allows for a little bit of a longer project timeline, which we all know how busy annual enrollment gets. So we want that for you all, so that you can have the time and space to focus where you need to focus as annual enrollment gets closer. So that's what I would share from a timeline perspective, Nelson. From a cost perspective, it really depends on what all ends up falling into your communication scope. I mentioned it's not a one size fits all. We look at our projects really as a la carte, meaning it's not just a package that you get off the shelf that includes 2 emails and a postcard and a virtual benefit fair. That might be where we end up, but that's why we like to do that discovery session so that we can determine what really needs to be in scope. And that's how we determine the communications budget and the cost associated with that. And there's a couple of different ways that we can kind of package things up and look at the cost.
And Sam, what was that? What did that timeline look for you all? When did you officially roll out that virtual benefits fair? And if you could speak to, you've hit on it a couple of times, serving those different populations. Maybe if you staggered rollouts for this group versus that group, that would be helpful.
Yep. So we launched everyone at the same time, but we've tried it 2 different ways. So for the past couple of years, outside of this last annual enrollment, we pre-launched the virtual benefits fair to let people go in there, kind of, poke around, see their benefits early if they wanted to, just get a look and feel for what we have, what some of the changes are. And we think we did that about maybe 2 or 3 weeks prior to our annual enrollment date. And then this year, we tried just launching the virtual benefits fair with annual enrollment. There wasn't, we didn't, how do I put it? We didn't lose like a lot of traction, right? We didn't get between those 3 weeks. It wasn't like so many people were going in there so early. So we just gave ourselves a little extra time and just launched it with annual enrollment. And that worked just fine. But again, I think it depends on your population. If they are very happy and want to get that information early and see something, really early, then you can go prior to annual enrollment. But we this year launched with annual enrollment and it worked out just fine.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to go a little bit back in the meeting. One thing I did want to ask you before we part ways here that I think is really unique to BASF, and I would love to see more customers maybe utilize is talk about your philosophy real quick on gamification and how that's played a role in engagement.
I can tell you with 100% certainty, our employees like cash and challenges. So that is something I know about our population. So with the raffles that we do in the virtual benefits fair for annual enrollment, we work with some of our different vendors to see if they want to donate anything. So maybe they'll give us a tumbler or a wireless speaker, these really small things that, we ask them for, or maybe we have a BASF cup or a bag or a backpack. Those things go a long way. People seem to really love branded items. And then we also do a large raffle. So I think in the past we did the Oculus, the virtual reality glasses. Last year we did a different approach where we allowed someone to pick their grand prize. So we offered AirPods, a Yeti cooler, and an iPad, I think, or maybe an Apple Watch. And the person who won the overall raffle for coming into the virtual benefits fair, he picked the giant Yeti cooler. So kind of having a nice selection of things that people are interested in, but they are definitely very motivated, even by smaller, low-cost items.
That's awesome. And maybe the secret for 2024 benefits engagement will be finding a Stanley mug and putting that up for raffle. That seems to be the hot item right now. I was starting to thank you all for attending earlier, especially HR audience. There's you don't get thanked enough, so I'll go ahead and say thank you again for attending. Appreciate everything you do, not only for your employees, but thank you again for coming here today.
Thank you for listening to our Benefits Pulse today. You can support the Benefits Pulse podcast by watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to stay in touch with us by signing up for our email or following us at Business Solver on LinkedIn to get the latest episode. All of our links are in the show notes and on our website at businesssolver.com/benefits-pulse. Have a great day and catch you at the next episode.